This year we intentionally really worked with Sydney Contemporary around having major works of scale and working with artists that had a very strong reputation, both here in Australia and overseas. And the intent really was to think about how we made a work that was site-specific and spoke to its location, but it was also a bit of a disruptor for those that work here day in, day out. The great thing about doing creative placemaking is really that the artists can work with us to create not only an identity, but also a sense of community. And through their work, they often disrupt what is usually a 9-to-5 general pattern.
I work with different mediums, performance, often video, sculpture, and often the works collide in a way, and it depends on what I need to express, which medium I choose to use. So in this case, for Barangaroo, I worked with performance, and Barangaroo was a really exciting opportunity because of the public nature of the space. And Exchange Place, particularly because you have these lines of movement and there's a kind of a natural line that people are taking. And so by putting a performance in the center of the space, we were asking them to just stop, I suppose, take a moment. And so the work was based on breath and creating these lines of breath through the space. And it felt like it could be a cathartic experience, that the public may stop and breathe themselves, and instead of the way that they might have come in as an individual, they leave as a collective, as everybody started to breathe in concert.
And I'm an artist from Victoria who deals with environmental and elemental forces and transcribing those into artworks through various instruments, into drawings on paper and sound pieces and video works. This piece for Barangaroo is called Remote Sensor, and it is a platform of instruments that create drawings in response to weather. And as a lot of Sydney-siders know, Barangaroo is famous for its wind and weather. And so I'm actually going to be producing drawings on site from the wind and weather and rain to show at Sydney Contemporary.
This is a pretty uncomplicated work. In really obvious terms, you know what it is. It's a half a head of Donald Trump on one side, and on the other side, it's a kind of empty brain that is a kind of version of hell. It belongs to the language of pop culture, of the kind of bus shelter. But then when you sit in here, perhaps there is a kind of more complicated way to speak about or think about this type of figure. So it's not really about Donald Trump, it's about how the world we live in is constructed in such a way that a figure like this would kind of emerge as the most powerful person in the world. He's sort of like a P.T. Barnum, a snake oil salesman. There's always been this type of figure in our history. But for that figure to kind of reach the kind of prominence he has, and you know, to deliver sort of bad government essentially, sort of no longer the idea of kind of good government, is the kind of strange thing about the social media age we live in, which is an age of the kind of regime of opinions, not expertise.
Sydney Contemporary is Australia's premier international art fair. The fair's at Carriageworks, but we like to activate areas like Barangaroo down here on the waterfront. Barangaroo has been magnificent to work with. They offer opportunities for artists that isn't very common, which is for large-scale temporary public works.